Hello, thanks for having me. Today I'm going to talk about the European challenge, using AI and digital transformation to compete globally. ThyssenKrupp is a rather large company. It's operating worldwide, but to be honest, we are located mainly in Germany. Our main business is Europe and Northern America and also South America. So we are under a strong market pressure, of course, not in all fields, but in some fields from, let's say, Asia, from China. And this situation is not a temporary crisis. It's a systemic transformation. It's that transformation everyone was talking about for the last years. This, what we see now, is not a temporary crisis that will go away in 2 or 3 years. Probably this will stay. This will be the new normal. Chinese companies don't gain market share because they're cheaper. Of course, you see cars that cost half and all of that. But I'm strongly convinced that Chinese companies gain market shares because they are faster, they are systemically agile, and willing to take higher risks. And I think, especially in Germany, these topics are the weak points at the moment. Let's look at it. The world is getting faster, so European countries will have to take speed. The world is getting increasingly volatile, so what we need is agility. And know-how is getting increasingly accessible. It became accessible, of course, with the internet revolution, and now we have the next step, AI. We all use AI in one or the other way. As I experienced in the last 3 years, there are many different ways to use AI. Some people just use it as, let's say, advanced search engine, but I'm absolutely convinced that AI is a large factor that spreads knowledge worldwide. And so, of course, European companies have to get more in this field of, let's say, innovation. And of course, they have to transform their business models. And these transformation of business models don't come just from one side, not only from the companies, but there's also a strong transformation in the market expectation. You see this, for example, in cars. 20 years ago, people expected a nice color or a convertible or, let's say, a strong engine, something like that. Nowadays, it's more about entertainment, connectivity, also about AI. These are the new normals in the world, and Chinese companies offer that. Also, Tesla offers that. They all have understood that times have changed. Let's look into, as we have seen 10 minutes ago, let's look into processes. The topic processes is very, very interesting, because all of the people out there tell you, if you got problems with your processes, if you got problems with your efficiency, use AI. AI will solve the problem. And I'm strongly convinced that AI is not the tool of choice because it's at the moment too inconsistent, not accurate enough. And in the end, we'll see that in, let's say, 1 year, 2 years, it's also too expensive. AI is a tool that comes on top if you have your processes automated. If you gone through a whole change of different steps. And here are the steps. There are, of course, if you want to get more agile, more efficient, conservative methods, reducing process complexity, reducing data complexity, all in all, reducing system complexity. That's very important, but it's rather conservative. On the next step, we got robust process automation. You need no code. You use maybe if you are still in this field, you use low-code platforms just to involve and further develop your processes. Then, of course, you can put on top machine learning. That's really important to use this data, to use the data that's in your companies, in your processes. Your company history is not just, let's say, something to write on a table. Your company history is also experience. It's data from thousands of use cases, and you can use that. On top of that, if you're done with that, you can use generative AI and in the end, agentic AI. This is, of course, a very interesting chain. At the moment, you will hear from many out there, use AI and it will solve it. First of all, look at your data. You need a semantic layer in your data. You need your data to be connected with attributes. And also be that bold to get rid of your old data. Any old data that you have, let's say from 1980 or 1990, just look at it. And if someone hasn't used it in 5 years, get rid of it. You don't need it anymore. As far as I can tell you, the more you can reduce the complexity and the amount of data you got in your system, the more successful you will be. Of course, don't get rid of the relevant data in your company, but the relevance is mostly driven by the term of usage. So if someone or nobody has asked for this data for 10 or 20 years, then it's pretty much obvious that you don't need this data anymore. And it's plain and simple sometimes, but these are the points. On the other hand, rethink your own company structure, the business model, understand the need and agility of the market, because the market is changing. If someone tells you in your company, we have done this for, let's say, 30 years, that's very common in Germany, that people tell you, it's perfect, we've done this the last 30 years. And I always say, yeah, cool, but the market and the world has changed since 20 or 30 years. And that's the problem. These people don't see the change in the market. And I always say, cannibalize your business model by creative destruction before your competition does. Because someone will come up with a better idea. So it's, from my point of view, it's better that you come up with a whole new idea and transform your business. Not all of your employees will like it. Of course not. Some like it the way it was the last 30, 40, 50 years maybe. But that's a problem. I experienced this when I thought back about my youth. All the people nowadays in Germany tell you, yeah, well, in the 80s, it was so much slower. Products stayed there 10 years, 15 years. In my youth, I had a Walkman. Sony went really skyrocketed with Walkman. And in the first 2 to 3 years, they invented technologies within this small area. They came up with a Walkman not bigger than a cassette case. Out of the blue. They were innovative because they knew they are successful in the market and someone will attack them. And they wanted to be prepared on this attack. And that's the point behind. And the last point is, no matter how advanced your technology is, if it is, let's say, Microsoft, or if it is Google with Gemini, no matter how, it's not at the moment, the AI race, from my point of view, is not about technology. It's more about people that make the difference. Because the people in your company, also your customers, have to believe in the way you do things. They have to believe in your business models and your products. If the people in your company and in the market don't believe in you, then you're not successful. ThyssenKrupp, 100 years ago, ThyssenKrupp was the biggest company in Europe, by far. ThyssenKrupp was, I would say, very slow about 40, 30 years ago. About 10 years ago, ThyssenKrupp realized that they have fallen too far behind, and at the moment we're in a race, we're in a transformation race, really in a transformation race. I didn't come up, as you might have realized, with this 70% that fail. At the moment, we are too fast. We have developed methods. We have, for example, we use fail fast method within ThyssenKrupp. So the projects won't have the chance to fail at such a high percentage because we filter them on and on. And at the moment, ThyssenKrupp is mastering the transformation. And I can strongly advise you, don't believe in technology, believe in logic. That's the thing behind. And with these words, I'd like to thank you.